UK must seize opportunities of AI to remain a tech capital, Sunak says. Britain must act quickly to remain a tech capital, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will tell tech leaders on Monday, urging them to grasp the opportunities and challenges of artificial intelligence. Sunak, speaking at the start of London Tech Week, will say the tectonic plates of technology are shifting.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
The tectonic plates of technology are shifting. We must act, and act quickly, if we want not only to retain our position as one of the world's tech capitals, but to go even further, and make this the best country in the world to start, grow, and invest in tech businesses, Sunak will say, according to advance extracts released by his office. That is my goal. And I feel a sense of urgency and responsibility to make sure we seize it. Governments around the world are now trying to find a balance whereby they can assess and rein in some of the potential negative consequences of AI without stifling innovation. Britain in March opted to split regulatory responsibility for AI between those bodies that oversee human rights, health and safety, and competition, rather than
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Between those bodies that oversee human rights, health and safety, and competition, rather than creating a new body dedicated to the technology. Sunak will say the tech sector is at the heart of his priority to grow the economy and outline how the government will work with businesses to capitalize on opportunities presented by transformative technologies, such as AI, which proponents have compared with the arrival of the Internet. During a visit to Washington last week, Sunak said Britain would host a global summit on artificial intelligence safety later this year to consider the risks of AI and discuss how they can be mitigated through internationally coordinated action. The possibilities are extraordinary. But we must, and we will, do it safely, he will say on Monday. I want to make the UK not just the intellectual home, but the geographical home of global AI safety regulation. Make the UK not just the intellectual home, but the geographical home of global AI safety regulation.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Democratization of technology important tool to help bridge data divide, PM Modi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday pitched for democratization of technology to bridge the data divide, and told G20 delegates that India is willing to share its experience with partner countries as digitalization has brought about a revolutionary change here.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Has brought about a revolutionary change here. Speaking to G20 development ministers through a video address, Modi also batted for reforms in multilateral financial institutions to expand their eligibility criteria to ensure that finance is accessible to those in need. He underlined the growing data divide and said high-quality data is critical to meaningful policy making and efficient public delivery. In India, digitalization has brought about a revolutionary change. Technology is being used as a tool to empower people, he said. Modi spoke about his government's work to boost development in over 100 aspirational districts, a reference to underdeveloped areas. Experience has shown that these districts have emerged as a catalyst for the country's growth and urged the delegates to study the model as they may find it relevant. Noting that development is a core issue for the Global South, he said these countries were severely impacted by the disruptions created by the global COVID pandemic. And, the food, fuel, and fertilizer crises because of geopolitical tensions have delivered another blow, he added. In such circumstances, the decisions you make carry.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
And fertilizer crises because of geopolitical tensions have delivered another blow, he added. In such circumstances, the decisions you make carry great significance for humanity as a whole. I strongly believe that it is our collective responsibility not to let the Sustainable Development Goals fall behind. We must ensure that no one is left behind. It is imperative for this group to send a strong message to the world that we have an action plan to achieve this, he said. Describing Varanasi, where the meeting is taking place, as the oldest living city of the Mother of Democracy, the Prime Minister said it is a fitting location for the G20 Development Ministers meeting. Kashi has been a center of knowledge, discussion, debate, culture, and spirituality for centuries. It has the essence of India's diverse heritage and serves as a convergence point for people from all parts of the country, he said. Of India's diverse heritage and serves as a convergence point for people from all parts of the country, he said.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Changes to genetic modification rules would benefit the economy. National. The National Party says New Zealand will be left behind if it does not overhaul restrictions on genetic modification, and it plans to address the issue if it leads the next government. National Science spokesperson Judith Collins told Morning Report changing the rules would result in huge advances in gene technology which would help the economy grow. We have some of the best scientists, and so many of them, in New Zealand, on all sorts of agri-tech, med-tech, climate change issues, and right at the moment they can't take what they're doing outside of the lab.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Change issues, and right at the moment they can't take what they're doing outside of the lab. That meant the country was losing both an enormous amount of intellectual property and the opportunity to really deal with things like climate change and to be world leaders in this, as well as in agri-tech and med-tech, Collins said. She said National planned to tackle the issue with a 3-stage plan. Ending what National calls an effective ban on gene editing/genetic modification in New Zealand. Creating a dedicated regulator to ensure safe and ethical use of technology. Streamlining approval for trials and the use of the non-GEGM biotech, in line with other OECD countries. Collins said some trials were waiting 3 to 4 years to be approved here, despite the products being used in other countries. It's so highly regulated that there is no commercial use of GE in New Zealand other than a vaccine for horses. Everything else is basically trialed in health for humans around things like T-cell therapy for cancer, and those are still trials. It's effectively banned, and that's why we've used that word effectively. The science had moved on since that effective ban on genetic modification had come in 20 years ago, she said, and the establishment.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Effectively. The science had moved on since that effective ban on genetic modification had come in 20 years ago, she said, and the establishment of a dedicated regulator would ensure the safe and ethical use of biotechnology. Collins noted that many other overseas jurisdictions such as the United States, Canada, Brazil, and Argentina did not have any regulation of genetic modification at all. When people are drinking their soy lattes, if it's coming out of the States, it's most likely GM, so people need to understand that that is something already in the food chain. Australia had liberalised its rules on the issue and had brought in a gene technology regulator, she said. We're saying a biotechnology regulator, very similar. We've been very well served by regulation. But critics of National's plan say the existing restrictions on genetic modification in the country are there for a reason. GE Free New Zealand spokesperson John Karapi told Morning Report the group was disappointed to see National basically throwing the door open for the biotechnology industry and kind of throwing both the public and protection of nature under the bus. New Zealand had been very well served by existing regulations, he said. What National is saying is they're gonna actually not end a ban, because there is no ban on GE in New Zealand. There's requirements to test for safety for the environment and people's health. What they're actually doing is ending effective regulation. While gene editing was a more advanced approach to genetic engineering, the technology's power had not gone away, Karapet said. The actual technologies that are used to create gene editing do sometimes use transgenics, and the point is that they're operating at a level of the genome that has huge implications if it's not regulated and controlled. He claimed the moves to make changes to the regulations were being pushed by the biotechnology industry and were driven by IP, intellectual property, but they're not carrying liability. One of the big issues in New Zealand is liability for damage to the environment from approved GMOs. Every event of a genetic engineering practice is unique and it needs to be examined and checked to see what else you may have changed in the genome, and those are the kind of rules and regulations that we've got, he said, adding that National was proposing a kind of Clayton's regulation. Karapet questioned what the literal real benefits had been for places like the United States, which deregulated the use of genetic engineering years ago, saying pesticide use there had massively increased over the same period. We've had lots of benefits from having that precautionary approach by avoiding things like the spray of chemicals into the environment. Consumers all over the world valued non-GMO food, he said, and the whole structure of our food system had to be questioned, which included supporting farmers to become genuinely and authentically more sustainable. We need to have the biological toolkit available to us. Biomedical scientist Sir Peter Gluckman, who was the chief science advisor to the Prime Minister from 2009-2018, told Morning Report he did not believe.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Food, he said, and the whole structure of our food system had to be questioned, which included supporting farmers to become genuinely and authentically more sustainable. We need to have the biological toolkit available to us. Biomedical scientist Sir Peter Gluckman, who was the chief science advisor to the Prime Minister from 2009-2018, told Morning Report he did not believe there was any evidence that a nation's GMO status was a concern for consumers. I don't think that there's evidence in the world that matters. People, as long as food is labeled what it's made of, people will pick and choose accordingly. A policy such as the one National was proposing was long overdue and would open up valuable opportunities for science, he said. Asked whether gene editing and gene modification were the same thing, he said, there's a range of ways of manipulating genetic information. They range from inserting whole genes, which is called genetic modification in popular language, to changing one letter in the alphabet soup of the genetic information, which is called gene editing. Just like every technology, Gluckman said, it was how it was used that determined whether it was safe or not. Every technology has upsides and downsides. The key issue was that New Zealand was the only place where we regulate a technology per se and effectively ban it, as opposed to the use of the technology, he said. What we should be doing, like everybody else does, is regulate the use of the technology. The science on genetic modification had become very clear over the past 30 to 40 years, he said. Most importantly, because of our advances in gene sequencing, we can be sure that the change in the gene that's desired, is the one that's achieved. Gluckman said while food security was not presently a concern for New Zealand, our agricultural products are at risk with climate change, both because of the impact on the climate and the environment, but also because the climate would change what is producible. Therefore, if we're going to be an agricultural, biological economy, we need to have the biological toolkit available to us. The changes proposed by National would be an appropriate balance of precaution and innovation because they included the establishment of a regulator, he said. If there's no regulator, then obviously one would be concerned, but there's a regulator. To have the biological toolkit available to us. The changes proposed by National would be an appropriate balance of precaution and innovation because they included the establishment of a regulator, he said. If there's no regulator, then obviously one would be concerned, but there's a regulator. But there's a regulator.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Queensland promises 500 new homes under $320 million social housing commitment. The Palazachuk government will unveil more than $320 million for 500 homes under a new social housing pledge when it hands down the Queensland budget on Tuesday. Soaring coal prices are also expected to deliver millions of dollars into the state government's coffers on the back of the three-tiered coal royalties system introduced in July.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Of the three-tiered coal royalties system introduced in July. The government has staunchly defended its changes to royalties, which has resulted in a billion-dollar bonanza on the back of persistently high coal prices. Tuesday's budget is set to outline cost of living relief measures, as well as announcements on housing amid a widespread shortage. The Premier, Anastasia Palazachuk, said the government was pulling every lever possible to ensure Queenslanders had a roof over their heads. "We recognize that this is a big issue out there for families," she told reporters in Brisbane on Monday. "We also know that thousands of people continue to move to Queensland, and that is putting additional pressure on our housing markets up right across the state, even in regional Queensland. The social housing is expected to be ready by mid-2025. The $322 million in funding in Tuesday's state budget comes after a $64 million funding increase for emergency housing in inner Brisbane and a $10 million pledge to turn the pink.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
State budget comes after a $64 million funding increase for emergency housing in inner Brisbane and a $10 million pledge to turn the Pinkenba quarantine facility into emergency accommodation. The housing minister, Megan Scanlon, said every Queenslander deserved a roof over their head. She acknowledged the heat in the housing market and the difficulty in getting construction projects off the ground because of supply constraints and labor shortages, but the money is there. It's available, and we'll be doing everything we can to get those houses up off the ground as quickly as possible, she told reporters. The government has been under pressure over the shortage of social and affordable housing, with the Productivity Commission report in January saying the state spent the least, per capita, on social housing in Australia. The opposition said the funding was the latest in a long list of promises the government had failed to keep, on time or at all. The social service peak body, the Queensland Council of Social Service, QAS, welcomed the extra housing but said it was not nearly enough. The Palazachuk government says it has built on average more than 10 homes per week since it came into power, but it has been spending less than any other state per capita on social housing, its chief executive, Amy McVeigh, said in a statement. It needs to build more than 50 social and affordable homes a week to keep up with demand, she said. The government has also faced criticism from the Queensland Resources Council, which says the royalties hike, estimated to be among the steepest tariffs on resources in the world, was costing the state jobs and future investment opportunities. Analysis by the council last month found bumper coal prices were forecast to add an extra $5 billion to state coffers, bringing the total royalties paid by coal companies in 2022/23 to a record $13 billion. When the investment rules change so drastically and so suddenly as they did when the world's highest coal royalty was introduced in Queensland last year, that's a wake-up call for investors in all resources projects who have reason to rethink whether Queensland is the best place to invest, said the council's head, Ian McFarlane. But the treasurer, Cameron Dick, called on the council to show respect to those who are suffering because of high inflation and high mortgage rates. People are doing it tough in Queensland, and I don't think Queenslanders want to hear complaints from the coal lobby and from the mining lobby about paying a little bit more tax when they are making record profits and their revenue is through the roof, he said. Council to show respect to those who are suffering because of high inflation and high mortgage rates. People are doing it tough in Queensland, and I don't think Queenslanders want to hear complaints from the coal lobby and from the mining lobby about paying a little bit more tax when they are making record profits and their revenue is through the roof, he said. The roof, he said.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
George Goh, founder of Harvey Norman Asha, to run for president in Singapore. George Goh, the founder of Harvey Norman Asha, on Monday, June 12, announced his intention to run for the Singapore presidency, becoming the second person to step forward after Senior Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam. A statement from his media team said Mr. Goh will contest as an independent candidate.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Mr. Goh will contest as an independent candidate. He has no political party affiliations, past or present. He has no political baggage. He was never in the public sector. He is an entrepreneur who started working at the age of 16, and has since built a business empire spanning 14 countries, it said. Mr. Goh, who brought Australian electronics store Harvey Norman to Asia, had been floated as a possible presidential hopeful in recent days. The 63-year-old is chairman of Asha International, an SGX-listed investment holding company. Married with 4 children, he also co-founded the charity Border Mission and is a council member at the Red Cross Society, among other roles. He was in 2017 appointed as Singapore's non-resident ambassador to Morocco. To contest the presidential election and to maintain his independence, Mr. Goh tendered his resignation to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on June 9, the statement said. President Halimah Yacob's 6-year term ends on September 13 this year. The 68-year-old announced on May 12.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Statement said. President Halimah Yacob's 6-year term ends on September 13 this year. The 68-year-old announced on May 29 her decision not to seek a second term. She is the country's 8th president and first female president. Decision to run for president. According to Mr. Goh's team, he made the decision in 2017 to stand for election, after the eligibility requirement for private sector candidates was raised, from those helming corporations with at least $100 million, $75.6 million, in paid-up capital to corporations with at least $500 million in share equity. He was concerned that the more stringent conditions might lead to another uncontested election, as was the case in 2017 with President Madam Halimah Yacob, a former Speaker of Parliament. Although there are 1,200 such companies, not many are helmed by citizens. Most would also rather remain private citizens, the statement read. This time, the establishment has endorsed Senior Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam as its candidate. Mr. Tharman has been with the People's Action Party since 2001. He is a long-time cabinet minister and has, since his civil service days, been closely involved in public finance policies and institutions. Mr. Goh questioned if Mr. Tharman was the right man to become president, given his close alignment with the ruling political party. This is especially so, given the president's role in checking the government in the 2 important areas concerned with the national reserves and key public office appointments. To maintain the integrity of the office, the president must not only be above politics but be perceived as such, the statement read. It added that Mr. Goh is equipped with the financial and technical skills to scrutinize the government's books, and that he has considerable managerial and leadership expertise, acquired both here and abroad, to make judgments about a person's suitability for an important post. All 4 of Singapore's past elected presidents were political appointment holders or from the public sector. It is time to have a truly independent person with a pair of fresh eyes to play the role the elected president was created for, the statement read. Mr. Tharman announced his intention to run for president last week, saying he will resign from the People's Action Party and retire from all his positions in government. The former Deputy Prime Minister told reporters on Sunday that it is important for him to have a contest in the upcoming presidential election, saying he would much rather win or lose with a contest. Potential candidates can apply for a certificate of eligibility from June 13, the first step in order to enter the presidential race. Prospective candidates must also submit a community declaration. Orders on Sunday that it is important for him to have a contest in the upcoming presidential election, saying he would much rather win or lose with the contest. Potential candidates can apply for a certificate of eligibility from June 13, the first step in order to enter the presidential race. Prospective candidates must also submit a community declaration. Subscribe
our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Child poverty group backs Green Party tax policy but National says it will affect investments. The Green Party is promising a radical shake-up of the tax system if elected this year, with an income guarantee, a wealth tax, a trust tax, and a higher top tax rate. Under the party's Ending Poverty Together plan, which was announced on June 11, anyone earning under $125,000 would pay less tax, with a tax-free threshold of $10,000. The changes would put up to $26 a week more into the pockets of 3.7 million New Zealanders, the policy document says.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Pockets of 3.7 million New Zealanders, the policy document says. Green Party co-leader Marama Davidson said yesterday for couples, the income guarantee would be at least $770, while a single parent would always have an income of at least $735. Green Party co-leader James Shaw told Morning Report New Zealand was the only country in the OECD that did not have some form of tax on capital, and there were 135 countries that did a better job of creating a more inclusive and fairer society than ours. Our vision is that we take the 45,000 children who are currently living below the material hardship line in Aotearoa and lift them above that line, he said. Why would we leave anyone in poverty when we have the choice not to? The party's proposed wealth tax of 2.5% on net assets above $2 million, or $4 million for couples who jointly own assets, and 1.5% tax on assets held in private trusts, were projected to raise at least $12 billion in the first year, the Greens policy statement said. But Shaw said those estimates were conservative. There are advantages and disadvantages to both wealth taxes and to capital gains taxes, he said. We punted for a wealth tax on this occasion because we've seen huge asset growth, especially.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Advantages to both wealth taxes and to capital gains taxes, he said. We punted for a wealth tax on this occasion because we've seen huge asset growth, especially during the COVID period, and a capital gains tax would not recover any of that. He said the party believed its plan was bold but also realistic and it could be executed in the next term of parliament. What we're saying to the electorate is, if you want to live in a civilized society which takes everyone with us, please vote for this, and that will strengthen our hand in any negotiations that we are in post-election. Redistribution of wealth necessary, Child Poverty Action Group spokesperson. Auckland University economist and spokesperson for the Child Poverty Action Group, CPAC, Susan St. John, told Morning Report the Greens package was comprehensive. They have made a very good effort to review and to change working for families in very good direction so that they've dealt with the inherent discrimination, she said. They've dealt with the complexity of it, and they've dealt with the huge disincentives that are built into working for families for those low-income families in work. While CPAC had not yet analyzed the full package in detail at the time of the interview, the policy that gave a substantial increase to the first child, payable to all low-income families, was an exceptionally good way, a very cost-effective way to improve the hardship and poverty amongst those low-income families, St. John said. She said there had to be a redistribution of wealth and it could be done in a number of different ways. We have to accept that until we do redistribute, we are not going to affect the growing inequality in this country, which is extremely damaging and economically very inefficient. The current situation was pretty dire for many families on low incomes, she said, and the proposed package would have a significant impact on child poverty levels in New Zealand. We've got hundreds of thousands of families that don't have enough money at the end of the week to feed their children. The food banks are overstretched, the NGO sector is reporting every day about how dire things are. Is this the country that people want to live in? The way out of poverty is if you can work, you should work, National. But the National Party said the Greens package was massive tax grab which could see wealthy New Zealanders leave the country. You simply can't tax your way to a stronger economy, and it's only a stronger economy that can solve the cost of living crisis that has exacerbated New Zealand's poverty issues, National Party finance spokesperson Nicola Willis told Morning Report. The Greens' proposal assumed wealthy people had no choice but to live and invest in New Zealand, she said. That's not the case. What we've seen with wealth taxes around the world, including in France and Norway, is that many wealthy people will simply flee the country, take their money that was creating jobs, incomes, and opportunities, and put it elsewhere. Willis said she thought most New Zealanders understood that the best and most sustainable way out of poverty was to support people into paid work, which brought independence and dignity. Effectively, what the Greens are saying is we need a gold-plated welfare scheme. National's view is this: actually, we need to send very clear incentives that the way out of poverty is if you can work, you should work. We think it's wrong to remove all sanctions so that people can actively choose not to be employed. Willis said that by the Greens' own admission, in their costings, they admit their policy would lead to a 25% increase in the number of people receiving a benefit in New Zealand. While she acknowledged the proposed wealth and trust taxes would affect only a small number of people, she said some of them would be everyday working people who, for family reasons, have family trusts. Those 0.7% of people, they affect all of us, because if they're not investing in our companies, and our businesses, if they're not building innovative start-ups, then we're not going to have the jobs and opportunities and incomes that New Zealanders need. National was in support of tax reductions, but believed they should be funded instead by stopping some of the ineffective, wasteful spending that government is doing on itself, she said. Yes to tax reduction for working people, absolutely, but at the same time we need to be thinking about how we encourage more job creation, more innovation, more investment. Not investing in our companies, and our businesses, if they're not building innovative start-ups, then we're not going to have the jobs and opportunities and incomes that New Zealanders need. National was in support of tax reductions, but believed they should be funded instead by stopping some of the ineffective, wasteful spending that government is doing on itself, she said. Yes to tax reduction for working people, absolutely, but at the same time we need to be thinking about how we encourage more job creation, more innovation, more investment. Job creation, more innovation, more investment.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.